favorite enemy. I didn't want it this way. Face to face, we'll finally find a remedy as our worlds collide tonight.
Well, when our forces collide, at least, anyway.
It's no use. Give up.
Sonic Forces, the game infamous for being the embodiment of mediocrity. I think it's fair to say that the marketing for this game was spot on at first, but the end result wasn't as fleshed out or as interesting as we thought it would be, and is arguably part of the reason why the game was as disappointing as it is. I can understand why people may not like this game, but people treat this game like it's bad enough to be the next Sonic 06, which I honestly can't seem to fathom. This game may not have been the big game we thought it was going to be, and it suffered from a lack of proper development time due to the focus on making Hedgehog Engine 2, but I think honestly it also was hurt by the lack of development after its release.
Shut your dumb ass up for a minute. Thank you. Alright, listen, it's 2018. If you really cared about your game, you would either have it done on the release date, or you would try and fix the mistakes that were due on the release date with some DLC and updates. That's also a great way to fix your mistakes for something that wasn't well received. So this just goes to show how lazy Sonic Team could be when it comes to stuff like this. And you would think releasing a big title like Sonic on a game system that doesn't have as much big titles as the Switch would give enough motivation to create a good and finished game. You'd think they would have done something, but as it turns out, they're just as lazy as anyone else thought they were, or maybe I'm just crazy.
There are a bunch of fair arguments and criticisms against why Forces isn't a solid game, but the reason why Forces is considered mediocre is because it did a lot of things right and just about the same number of things wrong, if not more. People blinded by discontent, disappointment, or resentment for the current state of Sonic might not be able to, but I feel like it's only fair to give this game credit where credit's due, despite the controversy around the title. Unfortunately, that's for another video, another day, because we're here to take an in-depth look at how Sonic Team used our favorite little fox in its day. So,
You beat me to the missile, you little pest.
for the last time, Tails. Where do I begin?
Smart enough. Whoa, chaos! Sonic, help!
You know what? I'm gonna save my thoughts on this scene for last. For now, I think a better place to begin is the interactions Tails had with Sonic.
You've gotten sloppy and weak. You would never have fallen for that move before. Look at you. You've ignored your training, and you've turned against all of your friends.
You dodged my spin attack. Nobody's ever done that before.
Oh, wait, it's something else. Gotta scan him and figure this out.
How are you doing? Tails? I need to know what's going on with this guy.
Whoa, this guy is faster than Sonic.
Nobody's ever done that before.
So the relationship Tails builds with classic Sonic starts off innocent enough. Sonic saves him in front of Chaos, Tails asks him 20 questions, and they go off together in pursuit of Eggman. Funny how once Sonic got there, Tails decided to go straight for Eggman, despite the circumstances, mixing that with the fact that he was completely scared and useless of Eggman when all Eggman had was a few robots. But anyway, at the very least, it's good to see Tails motivated to actually do something, even if he isn't doing it by himself. So, yeah. They follow Eggman to Green Sand Hill.
Strange. I see desert over there. This is Green Hill, right? Something is wrong.
You're still calling it green hell despite the fact
There's obviously sand. They arrive just in time to listen in on him and Infinite talk about the Phantom Ruby prototypes, while also learning
That's a genuinely shocking fact.
After Infinite leaves, Classic Sonic jumps in ready to square up with Eggman, but Eggman was just, annoyed. He was just done with the Classic Sonic. Tries to run off, but you can't run from Sonic.
You're not fast.
So in this boss fight, Eggman starts off praising his own genius and something's power exceeding his expectation, and people assume that it's dumb for him to be so happy about having a little chainsaw attached to his Eggmobile, but he just had a whole conversation about the power of the Phantom Ruby with Infinite, so I'm 300% sure he was talking about the Phantom Ruby itself and not the pathetic little saw he had dangling there from his Eggmobile. But I get it, bad writing, yada yada yada. So there's a bit of back and forth between Tails and Eggman here that you'll see continue on later in the game. It starts off kind of petty, but it's nice to see that they still express the rivalry between Eggman and Tails, despite Tails just sitting in the background in this game. So after Eggman was done playing around with the Egg Viper 2, it would be the Egg Viper 3, but Sonic 06 isn't canon. So yeah. He had that, for some reason he just had it laying around in Green Sand Hill for some reason, I don't know why. After that, Eggman told him of his master plan to pretty much delete the entire Resistance at once. After that, they finally meet up with the Resistance and...
It's been generations since I've seen you.
And Jesus Christ, Sonic, that wasn't necessary. Jesus. Now, after the idiotic plan that was...
Operation Big Wave.
80% of our forces have been wiped out, and we've lost contact with the rest.
Exactly.
The Resistance figures out that they need to find the Phantom Ruby's weakness if they were going to win, so Tails nominates young, innocent Sonic to come with him to infiltrate the chemical plant and find Eggman's database.
I just shut up for a minute. I gotta say something. So taking a look at this game and the lack of Classic Sonic's voice, it was basically Tails' job to give this little boy dialogue, and that shit honestly sucked. But when the plot needed something convenient to happen, Thing 1 and Thing 2 there were always there just to take the spot, when everyone else had some important shit to do, I guess. So it basically just added up with Tails asking Classic Sonic to do something, or Knuckles asking your OC to do something. Not that there's anything wrong with your little furry creature, but Sega already flushed out so many likable Sonic characters and just decided not to use them in this game. The only two side characters that ever got screen time were really Silver and Shadow. Shadow's role was basically to be like the Vegeta in the Cell Saga when he was fighting up against second form Cell, and then when Cell came back as Perfect Cell with his sexy ass jawline and just clapped everyone's cheeks because no one was not strong enough to stop him. And I guess you can say Silver was Trunks, but no one is as cool as Trunks. And everyone else in the Sonic universe doesn't have time for ass whoopings until the end of the game. But we all kind of are glad that we got to see some of our favorite faces in the game, regardless if they weren't doing anything relevant to the plot, more or less just running around doing dumb shit. And for that fact, we can really only blame the writers for not learning how to flesh out these characters properly, even though they've been fleshed out before through so many iterations of Sonic. But I did hear the original writer of the adventure games is willing to come back to start writing for more future Sonic games. Hopefully this means that Knuckles can go back to being a dumbass and Roach being a little slut.
When looking into Eggman's database, Tails and Classic Sonic find the big flaw to the Phantom Ruby, as well as a little nugget of gold about Eggman.
Okay, failed battle plans, old robot designs. Wow, he's got like 10 terabytes of selfies.
From there, Tails sends Classic Sonic into space to destroy the Death Egg because they thought that was the Death Egg was the power source. Well, when they confront Eggman again, they think Infinite won't be as strong, but turns out they got jebaited, and the Death Egg wasn't the actual power source of the Phantom Ruby.
What is that? Har, har. That, my spiky little friend, is null space. Null space? It's a little something that the Phantom Ruby cooked up. A closed-off space where absolutely nothing exists. Goodbye, Sonic, my soon-to-be-eradicated nemesis. Enjoy all the nothing.
But we destroyed the Phantom Ruby's power source.
Tisk, tisk. Since you always destroy the power source of my weapons, I decided to learn from my mistakes. I had a backup power source created under Metropolis.
But before you finish that, I gotta say that my boy Eggy was killing it in this game, yo. First of all, they didn't make him look like a jackass by giving him some dumbass dialogue. And he didn't give any big major plans to those little robotic testicles over there who's always fucking shit up. I'm honestly glad to see him back as the menacing doctor that we all love.
Hey, hello, come here, donkeys. Here we go. We started. Come here. What is that?
It's alright.
What is that? What is that? What is that? Fuck off, will you?
I'm missing an arm. Have you got an arm?
You're shit. You are so shit you don't realise what you're doing.
Anyway, so once Sonic and his buddy get back from null space and the Resistance makes a strong push at Metropolis, Eggman retreats to his tower to get the final phase of his plan ready. This leading the war against Eggman to, the final phase as a whole, where the big final battle took place. This was the point where everybody got their little participation trophy for being in the game. It was like the whole essence of other characters being in the game was all saved for this one last big fight. And for some reason, Tails is nowhere to be seen in this cutscene.
Why'd you leave me? Where are you? Were you thinking of me dead? Do you love me? Where are you? Then where are you if you do?
Once Infinite is done playing around, he uses the majority of his power to activate his final technique.
I'll finish this. Urban conceal.
It was at this moment, after all the years of Tails saying smart things to all his friends, and Tails said what can be considered the biggest and most important thing he's ever said. He told the created character the potential of the Phantom Ruby prototype the Avatar had in his hand.
3, 2, 1, 0.
And because of that, the Avatar was able to get to the top of Eggman's tower in time to rid the sky of the sun completely. Not the actual sun, silly. Like, come on. This not only a big deal because that little nugget of information not only saved pretty much every important character in the Sonic canon, but it was also the most significant thing Tails has done in a Sonic game since stopping Eggman from blowing up Station Square all the way in Sonic Adventure 1, and it's arguably even more significant than that. So after everything is said and done, and Tails has to say goodbye to Classic Sonic,
Sometimes you don't say goodbye once. You say goodbye over and over and over again. Over and over and over again. Sometimes.
restore the world or whatever, and that's all. The final bit to Tails' long and slightly complicated story has finished, and the Chronicle is complete.
I've got you now, Tails.
I sacrifice my Queen's Knight, my Jack's Knight, and my King's Knight!
Is he
He is!
The servers are the 7 Chaos. Chaos is power.
The ancient chant. He knows.
Power is enriched by the heart. The controller is the one that unifies the chaos.
But first I shall call out thy name!
Only you can do this.
I summon chaos! Come forth!
Well, the end of the story it would be if there wasn't a bigger underlying problem here. No, I'm not referring to how Sonic Tails tells.
Cheer up, Tails. I'm sure we'll run into him again.
When literally Sonic's right next to you. In the case of seeing classic Sonic, I mean actual classic Sonic again, I just have one condition, which is if it's a game, just make sure Tails is playable. Now, I did mention the kind of creepy obsession with classic Sonic Tails has. It's something that you can't always see, but when you look a little deeper into the story, it just sticks out a little bit that Tails just wanted to spend so much time with little young boy Sonic there, and it just has a bad undertone. Albeit not to the degree we would have to call a Predator's Chris Hansen in to ask Tails to take a seat.
Have a seat, please. All right, Michael, have a seat. I want to talk to you for a little bit. How you doing tonight?
Good.
What are you doing here?
Tails?
I'm sorry.
That's not the big underlying problem I'm referring to here, especially if you consider that mechanically, classic Sonic and Tails are actually around the same age, even if Tails seems like the older, more mature individual. To express, or should I say to expose the problem here, we need to take a look at the cutscene I put on hold when I started to talk about Tails and Forces, which is the Chaos video. This scene is probably the most crucial cutscene for understanding Tails, and it's pretty ironic because this cutscene has also been despised for both Tails' performance and for it being the last time we actually see Chaos do anything in the game. But hear me out. Instead of focusing on what Tails did, on how he reacted, on what he was doing, I ask you, what wasn't Tails doing? Even looking at the cutscene where Sonic saves him from Eggman's robots, which then led to Sonic getting jumped and captured, what isn't Tails doing in either of these cutscenes?
Well, no shit, Nistro. This little boy pussy. He ain't gonna be out there fighting.
First off, there's a sir in front of my name for a reason. I would suggest that you use it.
Oh, my bad, sir.
You know, I'm just kidding.
I'm only
right?
kidding. Don't get your
I
panties
freaking love you,
involved.
Ryan. Okay, there's no hostility here. Just saying.
What are you doing? Are you mad?
But more importantly, have you wondered why Tails isn't fighting in either of the cutscenes? In the Sonic vs. Team Eggman one, you can argue that Tails was trying to figure out Infinite's power, but the situation escalated too quickly for him to do anything, honestly, especially since Tails very intelligently deducted,
"This guy's faster than Sonic."
Which I think would be the fairest argument in that case. There's no debate, you can get mad at Tails all you want for just standing there, but if Tails would have jumped in, he just would have gotten himself hurt or killed just as badly as Sonic did, and honestly the situation would be no different. Well, what about the Chaos scene then? You know, it doesn't make any sense that Tails would cower and call uncle to Chaos Zero when he fought Chaos 4 in Sonic Adventure, so why didn't he fight then? Well, do I have some news for you? Because to all of you who think that fight actually happened, because the fight between Tails and Chaos 4 is as real as the illusions that the Phantom Ruby conjures up. Because if that fight happened, that also means Tails fought Knuckles before Chaos 4. And if that fight happened, that also means Tails fought Gamma, E102 Gamma, on the egg carrier, which in both situations we know it was Sonic. Especially if you reference it with the other two character stories, they're fighting Sonic, they're not fighting Tails. As I mentioned in the first Tails video, the majority of Tails' story in Sonic Adventure is just a mirror of the first half of Sonic's story. Although Tails was at Sonic's side half the time, he wasn't really a significant character. He barely did anything, and honestly, he didn't add a lot to the story by being there. So all that jazz that Tails did after the fact, and you know, with the missile and fighting Eggman, was the only time in Tails' history, in relation to the games, that we saw him fight for himself with no type of help or support. Now, do you remember those very crucial magic words Tails said to himself right before doing all that missile stuff? Let me refresh your memory.
The fate of Station Square depends on me. Sonic!
Then it happened. Reality hit, and Tails said the magic words.
I've changed a lot since I've started hanging with Sonic, but I can't depend on him forever. I know I can do this by myself. Okay, Eggman, bring it on!
Now, to be fair, Sonic Team did apply this mentality to Sonic Adventure 2. In Adventure 2, Tails is in the battle mode version of his plane, the Tornado, codename Cyclone. Tails spends the entirety of the game in the Cyclone, and even though he was with Sonic some of the time, we saw him pushing to do more things by himself, from breaking Sonic out of prison, to locating the president, to finding the entrance to Eggman's pyramid by himself, and even fighting Eggman by himself multiple times, like I said before.
But like I said before, Tails is pussy when it comes to fighting, especially when you gotta fight against Chaos. The only time he ever grew as a character was in Sonic Adventure, and we really haven't seen any growth since with his character.
You get that, right? So then why did Tails never continue that trend? You know, we could just blame it on the rotation of writers Sonic Team had, but that's the easy way out. Because despite the change in writers and writing styles, it seems one thing stayed consistent through and past the Adventure era. One thing, which is what Chaos exposed about Tails in Forces. For Tails to be at his best, or even functional at any level, Tails needs something to hide behind. In recent years, it's been funny how self-aware Sonic Team has been with their jokes, outside of the writing in games, but in Sonic Forces, this self-awareness Sonic Team had for Tails' history led to them making Tails hide and cower more times than he ever has in a single game. But as I also mentioned, he also did the single most important thing he's ever done. So the biggest disappointment isn't that they kept Tails' character somewhat consistent in Forces, it's more that it's disappointing that Tails was never given the chance by the writers to break out of that pattern, grow as a character, and do something himself other than say smart things. Like he told himself that he would do all the way back in Sonic Adventure 1. If there's one way I think Sonic Team could fix this in their future Sonic games, it would just be to make Tails playable again, so that their writers can put him into more situations where he can actually do something himself. I honestly think the best way to do this, and call me crazy, but I say to bring the mechs from Sonic Adventure 2 back. More specifically, Tails' version, although I wouldn't mind having Eggman playable again. You can find it ironic that I say this because of how much people don't like the mechs, but if Tails doesn't have some sort of technology that helps in more ways than just communicating, then he'll never crack out of the shell that he seems to be in. Thank you all for watching. I really hope you guys enjoyed the Chronicle of Tails series, and I honestly don't know if I'll ever put as much effort into another character analysis again, unless I feel there's a real big enough reason to delve so deep into the character's history. For Tails, I spent so much time explaining how Tails is used in each game to kind of put more emphasis on the fact, on the point that I made at the end there. And with the history Tails has in this series, you would think that he would be on a caliber of equal importance to Sonic by now, but for some reason Sonic Team refuses to give Tails a more important role in the games, and it's honestly a bit sad, so I can't help but feel bad for the guy. But moving on, you can expect the next analysis video to be on Infinite and how he was used in Sonic Forces, plus some of my own theories of how some of certain aspects of his story work out. You can expect it to be as long as the Silver video, if not shorter. So I have been your host, Sir Nistro, co-hosted by my boy Ryan. Check him out. Until the next tale, peace out. Actually, I actually did start working on the Infinite video a little early, so I decided to give you guys a little preview of what's to come in the next analysis video. You might want to put on headphones for this one, since it's a little stereo, but hope you guys enjoy. See you on the next one.
Have you ever given any thought to the fate of your children? Made good progress.
Thank you.